Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores coming to y'all today with a big time Washington Commanders free agency game plan and guide. I'm gonna update y'all on what our current cap space is. We gotta talk about what players that are currently leaving the team that we may want to re-sign before we even start to look around and get players from other teams that are hitting free agency. Then the next part, we have to talk about how we may be able to create some cap space with restructuring certain deals that are currently on the team. You know, extending a player couldn't cut down on the cost because they take the deal because they'd be making more money overall, but it'll just be spread out over the course of a few years rather than them making more money per year as of right now. And then, of course, the main part of this video, we got to take a look at a lot of the available players, because some guys are not even just available as free agents. Some guys are on the trading block as well. So we got to dive into all of the names that we're attached to, who we're reportedly interested in, and then the top players at positions of needs that we have and who I'd prefer at each position of need that we have. We got to talk about linebacker, free safety, guard, receiver, running back even, but mainly linebacker. We got to talk about all of that. And then Deshaun Watson is kind of a free man for now. Still has his civil suits coming up, but we got to dive into whether or not that's a realistic possibility as well. Remember, Carson Wentz has not officially been traded for until Wednesday, so if we wanted to back out on it, we technically could, or you can use Carson Wentz in the trade, include him in the trade for Deshaun Watson. But who knows? We're going to dive into all of that and why that's extremely unrealistic, but we can dream. And of course, I got to talk about the cap space monies for Deshaun Watson as well. Like, if we were to trade for him, how much would he cost us per year for the remainder of his contract? We got to discuss all of that, man. We're getting down all the way to the finer details of everything. This is the complete Washington Commanders free agency guide, so refer to this when Monday comes along. Remember, nothing is official as of Wednesday, but Monday is the legal tampering period when the new league year starts. So that's when we'll start to hear such and such signed with this team for this amount of money for this many years and all of that type of stuff. And then Wednesday is when it officially hits the books and like it's finalized that player's on that team. But again, until Wednesday, nothing is final. This Carson Wentz trade isn't even technically final. You saw how we just added in a 7th round pick out of nowhere. We probably told him, hey man, you don't include this 7th, we'll back out. And the Colts were like, here, y'all just take it, man. Whatever we got to do to get rid of Carson. I still feel like they finessed us overall because apparently they were willing to release him, and we went in asking for a 4th and a 6th. I don't know how we worked our way up to 2/3 and one of them possibly turning into a 2nd. But I did like the fact that we got a little petty back and was like, hey, you know, nothing's final till Wednesday. You better include a 7th round pick or we out. Yeah, man, before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, about to have a lot of fun here. Again, like I've already told y'all in several videos, be on the lookout for my Carson Wentz film session breakdown. It's not going to be how I typically do like my draft ones where I break down a bunch of weaknesses and strengths. This one is going to be purely how Carson Wentz can take Scott Turner's offense to the next level. I'm going to show examples of what Taylor Heinicke tried to do in Scott Turner's offense and how it didn't work out, mostly due to his lack of arm strength and deep ball accuracy. And then I'm going to show how Carson Wentz can definitely do it, and he's shown that he could do it just from a couple of plays from his Colts days. And we're going to show mobility, we're going to show everything. So be on the lookout for that and all updates. Anytime we pick up a free agent, we re-sign somebody like a J.D. McKissic, hopefully I'm going to update y'all on all of that. And of course, I'm eventually have some live streams throughout free agency as well to get a feel from y'all on how we're doing so far and all of that type of stuff. So it's about to be infinite content this next week. And I'm going to try to get that Carson Wentz film session done before free agency starts on Monday. So be on the lookout for that. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, so first of all, we got to start with all the players that we need to re-sign. Just to start off with the list, and I'm going to dive into specific players in more detail who are more important. You have Brandon Scherff. He's gone, so just go ahead and get that out the way. Landon Collins is technically a free agent because we plan on releasing him. He's gone. We're releasing him to save cap space. We're not re-signing Ryan Fitzpatrick. We better not re-sign John Bostic. Doubt we re-sign Cam Sims, but if he's willing to take a very cheap contract, maybe we do. Cornelius Lucas, would love to get him back. Love him as a backup swing tackle. Can fill in and start at left or right tackle very well. But I remember seeing a quote from him like December or January saying like he wants to be paid what he deserves. And so that just basically sounds like whatever the Burgundy and Gold have come to him with already, he didn't like it. And I don't know if they're going to up it because we're already struggling for cap space right now. But we're going to explain on how we can get way more and actually get a lot of these top names. But we're going to prioritize those top names over probably a Cornelius Lucas, especially since he's out here asking for a certain amount of money. We don't know what it is, but it sounds like he was unhappy with the offer, or at least the beginning of the talks that he had with the Washington Commanders back in January or December. Then, of course, you have J.D. McKissic. We're definitely going to dive into that. Darryl Roberts, hopefully bring him back for very cheap. Bobby McCain, bring him back for very, very cheap. Adam Humphries, bring him back for very cheap. Just depends on what we do in the draft. We'll see. Adam Humphries, like those guys like Darryl Roberts, Bobby McCain, Adam Humphries, if we do bring them back, it's going to be later. It's not going to be breaking news Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The Washington Commanders have re-signed such and such, fill in one of those guys' names. I think that would be later on. We may not re-sign any of those guys. If they don't go to another team, we may end up bringing them back maybe like May or something, you know? So nothing has to happen immediately Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then you have Tyler Larson, backup center, Danny Johnson, backup corner, Ricky Seals-Jones at tight end, Jared Norris, an outside linebacker, a special teams player, Torrey McTyer at corner, Deandre Carter at wide receiver. I would love to get him before another team gets him, because him gone, we saw what he contributed in the passing game, and we especially saw what he contributed in the special teams game as a returner. I think he needs to be one of our priority re-signings, him and J.D. McKissic. Then you have Jamil Douglas. Kyle Allen, it's already been reported that he will not be brought back. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Joey Slye, please bring him back. That's our franchise kicker right there. So remember, when you're doing all of these calculations of how much cap space we have and how much we have to spend on guys from other teams like a Bobby Wagner, Allen Robinson, all of these guys, when you're doing the math in your head, remember we still need to bring back guys like that, including Joey Slye. Now, I mean, he's a kicker. It's not like he's going to make crazy money. He was making $850,000 last year. Maybe he makes like $1 million, maybe $2 million per year. Hopefully we re-sign him for like 3 years, but who knows? You got Trey Apke. His contract is finally up. You have Najee Turan, the tackle, Jordan Kunaszyk, another special teams player, Tim Settle, defensive tackle. That's interesting. And Jalen Jelks as well, the outside linebacker. Now to get to the specifics, the players that are most important. Now, first of all, remember after we released Landon Collins, that saved us about like $6 million worth of cap space. Remember, Carson Wentz is eating up $28 million himself this year. So now we have somewhere around $12.5 million worth of cap space as of right now that we can spend. Again, after we talk about these re-sign candidates, we're going to discuss how we can create even more cap space than that. We may even be able to get to 30, depending on how you finesse it. But starting with J.D. McKissic, who's the biggest priority, I feel like Deandre Carter is probably second. But it's been reported that by Ben Standig that the Commanders view running back J.D. McKissic as a, quote, critical piece of its offense, unquote. So that's really interesting. It seems like even if it is somewhat of a bidding war, they're going to be willing to probably outbid those other teams. And you may not even have to. J.D. McKissic comfortable with the offense. He may like what we got going on. He may not feel like moving. You know what I'm saying? He's comfortable with this team. He knows his role. He probably really likes his role. So unless a team is just offering like double what we're offering, maybe he stays. Who knows? But it is reported by Mike Garafolo, who has nothing to do with the Washington Commanders, an outside source but a trustworthy source, saying that J.D. McKissic has a lot of interest around the league and may command like $5 to $6 million per year. That's really interesting. I hope it doesn't get to that point, but I wouldn't be surprised. And the main reason I don't want to lose McKissic is, first of all, he's our best receiving back right now. Definitely the most consistent, even though you saw what Antonio Gibson did on that screenplay against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, that was amazing. We need to start doing that more. That's why I keep saying Antonio Gibson needs to play more of a Cordero Patterson role, and we need to get somebody else brought in that can actually carry the load, especially on 3rd and 4th and shorts, even though I feel like Antonio Gibson can eventually get good at that. But for right now, especially since, I mean, trading for Carson Wentz, it looks like we're more in a win now mode than a building for the future, which is what I'm upset about most about the Carson Wentz situation, because I hope this doesn't block us from taking quarterback in the first round. But it definitely looks like we are in win now mode pretty much. Like, let's do all we can to build around Carson Wentz. We're probably going to draft a receiver or a corner with that 11th overall pick, maybe even trade back and get both. But we'll see. I'm saying all of that to say that J.D. McKissic, we're not only going to lose a great third down receiving threat, but he's also our best pass blocking running back on roster, and it's probably not even close. And that's big. Like, with J.D. McKissic gone, it's very noticeable that none of our other running backs can actually block fairly well on third down. So if we need somebody to come chip somebody, pick up a blitzer, without J.D. McKissic, we're looking ugly. You might as well just go ahead and send everybody else, including Antonio Gibson, out there at least on a short route to be a dump down option when the blitz is coming, because they're more effective at stopping the blitz by being a receiving option than actually blocking the guy. So, man, losing J.D. McKissic changes a lot of your offense. I mean, replacing his impact is going to be really weird if we lose him. And then, like I said earlier, as reported by Nikki Javala, the Commanders are not going to tender restricted free agent Kyle Allen. Of course, Carson Wentz, as of right now, is your QB1. Taylor Heineke is your QB2. Maybe they draft a guy. We're bringing some random guy, and then we have like a third, but he'll probably be inactive as of the 2022 regular season games. But it looks like Kyle Allen is not going to be on this roster. They're pretty much done with him because, again, Taylor Heineke is the backup. He's won the backup role, and he's the only quarterback currently on contract. Until this Carson Wentz trade is official, we technically have no quarterback on contract other than Taylor Heineke, and it's more simple to just keep Taylor Heineke and let Kyle Allen go, who's already off the books anyway. And then before we move on how to restructure guys, remember, re-signing includes extending Terry McLaurin. That was a priority this offseason, but after trading for Carson Wentz, and that's another reason I don't really like the trade, there's a lot of positives to it, and I feel like people are definitely stomping on the trade a little too much, but there are several reasons why I hate it for sure. I don't love it, but I don't absolutely hate it. But one of the reasons I definitely do hate it, other than us more than likely not taking like a Malik Willis in the first, is also this stops us and definitely blocks us from extending Terry McLaurin. Because I'm thinking Terry McLaurin's probably going to make like $20+ million per year for like the next 4 or 5 years when we extend him. We can't afford to do that right now because of Carson Wentz. So we're definitely gonna have to get the finessing some contracts if we're gonna for real go through with this Carson Wentz trade. Now let's talk about how we can create some cap space. Cutting players, trading players, restructuring players, man, let's get it. All right, so we already cut Landon Collins. That saved us $6 million, got us to the $12.5 million worth of cap space we already have right now. But there's also some restructure candidates. Maybe restructure / extend Kendall Fuller. He's an $11.1 million cap hit right now. You can take that number down. Guard Ereck Flowers, our starting left guard, he's a $10 million cap hit right now. Defensive tackle Matt Ioannidis, he may be a restructure or just flat out cut candidate right now. He's $8.3 million worth of cap hit right now. I was surprised when I saw how much that was. And then of course you have Logan Thomas taking up $6.2 million worth of cap space this season. So I mean, either of these guys, you can cut them, you can potentially trade them, even though I definitely prefer to keep Kendall Fuller, Ereck Flowers, Matt Ioannidis, and Logan Thomas. But like, guys like Kendall Fuller needs to take a pay cut. Ereck Flowers, I love him as our starting left guard of the future, so restructure his to where he's taking up less money per year. Go ahead and get that out the way. Matt Ioannidis, last year just wasn't it, man. So hopefully we could be able to trade him, maybe recoup one of those third round picks for Matt Ioannidis. Who knows? Deron Payne is another one where right now, he's due to make $8.5 million. Maybe you go ahead and extend him and it becomes less than that per year, but I don't know. I think Deron Payne may be asking for quite a bit of money. It may be even more than that $8.5 million per year. Who knows, man? But like, do we let Tim Settle walk since he's technically a free agent? Like, I mean, if you want Tim Settle back, remember, some of that $12.5 million cap space would have to go towards Tim Settle. It's not like he's currently on the roster. He is a completely unrestricted free agent right now. And then again, Matt Ioannidis as well. That $8 million worth of cap space is too much for what he provides to the team. I like him a lot, but like, can we restructure that, or can we trade him away to get like one of those thirds back from somebody else? Who knows, man? I definitely don't think cutting him makes a lot of sense, but I would love to restructure him or trade him. I think that's my only options for Matt Ioannidis. There's also the fact that we could just be straight up sellers in this free agency period, like not spending money, even trading away players, like I said, like maybe like a Matt Ioannidis to try to recoup draft picks so we can build around Carson Wentz and win now. I don't love that idea, but I mean, it just seems like once you trade for Carson Wentz, it's not like you're deciding that we're building for the future, we're selling out for the future. It looks like, if anything, you're selling out for the now. But my other point, man, like all these other teams are converting salaries into bonuses. Why are we not doing that? You see how many teams are creating cap space? The Saints restructured Alvin Kamara's contract to create cap space. The Saints also restructured Cameron Jordan's and that to know defensive ends contracts, creating almost $13 million worth of cap space alone from those two players. The Raiders restructured left tackle Colton Miller and running back Kenyon Drake's contracts to create almost $15 million worth of cap space. The Cowboys restructured Dak Prescott's and Zach Martin's contracts to create around $22 million worth of cap space. All of this is going down within just the last few days, like this week. There's so many more that I haven't even talked about. The Giants restructured Blake Martinez. Like, guys are taking pay cuts, guys are getting restructured left and right around the NFL, and it's definitely looking like cap space is a myth. I mean, teams are gonna make it work. You saw how many teams were in the negative when I did my cap space update a couple of weeks ago, and now they're about to suddenly be in the positive while going to get guys. Just watch the Saints go and get somebody random like Bobby Wagner, even though they technically have no cap space, man. Cap space is literally a myth right now. I mean, Sterling Shepard restructured his contract so he wouldn't get cut. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Now to the fun part of the video. All of the available players via free agency or trade that we should be targeting / are targeting. Some of these, our names are attached to. There's been reports that we're interested in some of these guys. So, I mean, first of all, again, it looks like we're in win now mode. So I could see us either being sellers to recoup more draft picks and try to build around Carson Wentz that way, or being buyers and trying to build a win now roster through free agency, especially a wide receiver, linebacker, and free safety. So that's the logic. I don't think we're just gonna sit and be like dead middle how we usually are, signing guys on cheap contracts. I think we're either gonna go all in on building around Carson Wentz in free agency or building around him in the draft. First up, the Commanders are expected to show interest in cornerback Dante Jackson. That's interesting. That came out of nowhere. Cornerback. We just signed William Jackson to really good money. Again, Kendall Fuller is already in an $11 million cap hit, so I don't know if you're gonna pay good money for another corner, a third one taking up quite a bit of cap space. But you know who I do hope they get secondary wise is Marcus Williams. The Saints have already decided they will not franchise tag him for a second time in a row, so expect him to have a big market out there asking for big money. And if it's worth it, man, there's like 2 or 3 players out of this entire free agency that I'm willing to just give them whatever they ask. Just pay them the bag. Marcus Williams is one of them. Bobby Wagner is obviously another one. But Marcus Williams will have his market. It's been reported that the Eagles, Lions, and the Commanders are targeting him, so there's already a little bit of competition there. And then speaking of safeties, don't know why, don't know how, don't know where this math is coming from, but the guys at Vegas say that the Commanders have the highest odds to land Chiefs safety Tyrann Mathieu. That's really interesting. So we'll see how that goes, because him and Cameron Curl together would be crazy. I prefer Marcus Williams, younger, but either way, either of the two with Cameron Curl is a deadly secondary. But you also have guys like Devin McCourty, you have Marcus May, Rodney McLeod. I mean, there's a lot of options out there. Again, Marcus Williams and Tyrann Mathieu are my favorites. Tyrann Mathieu because he's just such a high caliber player, even at age 30. And then Marcus Williams, age 25. You're going to have to probably pay Marcus Williams more than you would pay Tyrann Mathieu just because of his age. But if we're going off a resume, Tyrann Mathieu has technically earned more money, but that 5-year difference is probably big enough to where you probably pay Marcus Williams more than you pay Tyrann Mathieu. Either way, I would give them whatever they want. I think Tyrann Mathieu still has a lot left in the tank, even though he was hurt for the Chiefs last year. When he was there, you noticed he was there. When he was not there, you noticed when he was not there. Then linebacker-wise, of course, headlining the whole thing is Bobby Wagner. There's a big market out there for him. Thank goodness. I saw a report that the Cowboys are no longer interested because they're not willing to outbid other teams for his services. Whatever he's asking for, the Cowboys have already decided that they're not going to do it, and thank goodness, because Bobby Wagner and Micah Parsons, I don't care how old Bobby Wagner is. That is the best linebacker group in the NFL automatic, and I just don't feel like dealing with that 2 times a year. I honestly don't. But yeah, man, I don't care what his age is. He's still a dog. He may not be playing at an all-pro level, but he's definitely still playing at a Pro Bowl level. And you add Bobby Wagner, even only like 80% Bobby Wagner, which I feel like he's playing even better than that. Last year for the Seahawks, wasn't 100% all-pro Bobby Wagner. I think he was somewhere in the 90s though. But even so, even if you were to get 80% or even 70% Bobby Wagner, that's better than anything we got. And Bobby Wagner isn't as old as people think. He's 31. It's not like he's 35 or 38. It's not like signing Thomas Davis literally just to be an on-the-field coach, a leader, a veteran that can help other linebackers. Bobby Wagner is coming in to lead your team in tackles and lead your team emotionally. Like, come on, bro. There's no team in the NFL that doesn't improve by signing Bobby Wagner. So that's another thing that, like, everybody could use him. And I wouldn't be surprised if Bobby Wagner's looking at one of those Super Bowl contenders like the Chiefs. The Chiefs let go of Anthony Hitchens Wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to finesse the cap space. Remember, cap space is a myth, to sign Bobby Wagner to whatever money he wants. I mean, you can see him going to the Broncos. I could definitely see him going to a Super Bowl contender and balling out and upgrading their defense immediately. But I would really love to get him, man. I really would. To have that middle linebacker, you let Jamin Davis, like I said in my Landon Collins video, I would like for him to lose some weight, gain some more speed, and try to be that Landon Collins role that we just lost by releasing Landon Collins, the hybrid linebacker safety role. He'd be far more comfortable in that role because that's what he did more so in college anyway. He didn't play much middle linebacker in college, and then we tried to force him to do that here. I was down to try the experiment because it was like, you never know. At least try it. If he ends up being a great middle linebacker, now you win. If he doesn't, now just put him back at will linebacker. But I would like to put him at Buffalo nickel. Let him literally do what Landon Collins was doing. He enjoyed playing in space in college. Let him lose a little bit of weight, get back to his college weight, and just use that athleticism to cover guys. And Cole Holcomb is better suited at outside linebacker anyway. And since we run nickel a lot of the time, we only have 2 linebackers on the field. All I know is we signed Bobby Wagner. He's one of those linebackers every time, every play. You rotate Cole Holcomb and Jamin Davis in and out for each other. Bobby Wagner's on the field no matter what formation we're running. I don't care what it is. But of course, Bobby Wagner, like I already said, has a large market. It's already been reported that the Cardinals, Rams, and 49ers are all heavily interested in Bobby Wagner, so we'll see how that goes. It's also reported that the Broncos are very interested. That was literally the quote from Schultz. And then the Cardinals also released linebacker Jordan Hicks. I think that's a really interesting idea. Remember, Hicks played at a high level last season. He had 118 tackles and 4 sacks. And I think he did a great job of mentoring Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons. I think they're going to be better linebackers because of Jordan Hicks. And I want him to not only do that for us, but again, just like Bobby Wagner, I think we signed Jordan Hicks. He's our best linebacker. So not only is he your leader in helping the other linebackers like Jamin Davis and Cole Holcomb get better, Khalid Hudson, all of these guys, but he's also contributing on the field and being very productive. He's your best linebacker on the field as well. And then at the same time, along with the fact that he's a good run defender, he's your quarterback of your defense, the defensive play caller. That's huge because they tried that with Jamin Davis. It didn't work out too well. And clearly Cole Holcomb can't do it because they never really asked him to do it much. But he can also pass rush, all of that. And most importantly, he's going to be cheaper than a Bobby Wagner. So you miss out on Bobby Wagner. I think Jordan Hicks is still a home run hit in free agency. If we get either one of those guys, I'm ecstatic. Also, the Patriots released linebacker Kyle Van Noy. Now, granted, his best ability is coverage, and right now we need run stopping in the worst way. But hey, man, Kyle Van Noy joins, and he's probably your best run stopping linebacker too. It's not going to be a huge difference like you would with a Bobby Wagner and Jordan Hicks, but either way, Kyle Van Noy, you miss out on Jordan Hicks and Bobby Wagner. I would love to get Kyle Van Noy. And then Hassan Reddick is also available, but he's more like an edge rusher than like a inside linebacker. So, I just wanted to throw that name out there. Who knows? He already has a market. It's already been reported that multiple teams are interested in him, but who knows, man? And then lastly, linebacker wise, you also have Anthony Hitchens, who's pretty solid in both the run game and pass coverage. I think he would definitely be an upgrade over what we currently have, especially at middle linebacker wise. So if we miss out on all of those guys, a sleeper could be Anthony Hitchens, but I definitely prefer to aim for Bobby Wagner. You miss out on him, try to get Jordan Hicks, you miss out on him, and then go after those other guys like Kyle Van Noy and Anthony Hitchens. Oh, and I almost forgot, my boy AJ Johnson. Don't know many reports coming out as far as teams interested in him or whether the Denver Broncos are going to prioritize re-signing him, but I would love to get AJ Johnson, man. I would love to. Granted, he's coming from the Vic Fangio defense, which is completely different from Jack Del Rio, but his run stop ability along with his coverage, Pro Football Focus felt like he was I believe, top 3 linebacker this past season, and when you go look at the tape, you can see why. And of course, that Atlanta Falcons linebacker, whose name I still can't pronounce, will be available, even though I think the Falcons are going to prioritize re-signing him. So, there's a lot of options out there. Quan Alexander, still only 27 years old. It seems like he's older than that, but it's just the injuries. So who knows? Maybe we bring him in and he bounces back to what he was before the slew of injuries that he's had. Of course, you have Donta Hightower, age 32. You have Reggie Ragland, age 28. And Jayon Brown, age 27, also as options. Then at receiver, it's been reported that the Cowboys are trying to trade Amari Cooper for a 3rd round pick, but may even accept a 4th rounder. So, he's technically not a free agent. You would have to trade for him, but that is an option. And it's been reported that Washington is once again pursuing Amari Cooper. Remember, we offered him that big time contract, that big money, even bigger than what the Cowboys offered him and gave him, but he decided to go with the Cowboys, and now he's a disgruntled employee. He wants out, and so we could trade for him, and apparently there's no hard feelings between us and him, and we're willing to take him if he wants to come to us, or if we can beat anybody else's offer. I don't think it's worth it though. I mean, first of all, we don't have a 3rd round pick to give, so we would have to just lead with a 4th round pick. And even so, like, if he doesn't become a free agent and is not willing to take way less money than what he's currently making, I'm good on the whole Amari Cooper situation. Even though you could definitely argue, if Amari Cooper were to be released by the Cowboys, which I doubt is going to happen, you could argue he's the best receiver in free agency. But then of course you also have like guys like Allen Robinson. You technically have Odell Beckham Jr. and he showed you he can still ball out. You have Antonio Brown, you have AJ Green, and remember, Chris Godwin and Devontae Adams are both tagged by their team, so they are not available. But Allen Robinson will not be tagged finally. But I just think Allen Robinson is going to ask for way too much money, man. And then moving on to running backs, I mean, there's a long list of them. If you want to try your hand at James Conner, Melvin Gordon, I think he's going to get overpaid. My Georgia dog, Sony Michel, still not a big fan. No, Leonard Fournette, I think fits well with what we're trying to get. Again, somebody that can be a bruiser while Antonio Gibson can play a more Cordell Patterson role. That works. Or Rashad Penny is similar in role and running in between the tackles and stuff like that. Then, of course, speaking of Cordell Patterson, he's a free agent. He's the best running back available in free agency, easily in my opinion, but we're not about to pay him that big time money, and plus we already have Antonio Gibson. Then you have Le'Veon Bell, you have Chase Edmonds, Devonta Freeman, Ronald Jones, Raheem Mostert, David Johnson, Jalen Richard, Phillip Lindsay, Marlon Mack, and our own J.D. McKissic technically. And then it's been reported that the Panthers are listening to Christian McCaffrey trade offers, so you're probably gonna have to give them a lot to get him. I definitely don't think it's worth it for our sakes. But you know, man, Ron Rivera does love his ex-Panthers, bruh. Front office, coaching staff, players, all of it, bruh. If you're a Panther, that definitely increases your chances of going to the Washington Commanders while Ron Rivera is the head coach for sure. And then also the Bears released Tariq Cohen today. And, you know, depending on whether he's healthy or not, if you can't re-sign J.D. McKissic, you could probably get Tariq Cohen for cheaper. I prefer to get J.D. McKissic, but who knows, man. And then guard-wise, there's a lot of guards. I mean, most recently, Roger Saffold from the Titans was released, saved them $10.4 million worth of cap space, and he started 46 out of 49 possible games during his 3 years at Tennessee. But then, of course, you also have Andrew Norwell, age 30. You have Laken Tomlinson, age 30, who's probably my favorite target as far as production and how much money he may ask. I think that would be like the best value contract as far as guards go. He could start at right guard for us, move Wes Schweitzer back to our swing backup interior offensive lineman, because he could play left guard, right guard, center, either of them. I love Wes Schweitzer as a backup. Technically could start, but I prefer him as a backup because there's not a lot of guys out there that can plug and play at left guard, center, and right guard, and he's just as productive at all three positions. That's hard to find, so I prefer to have somebody else start. And I think Laken Tomlinson is probably my favorite choice, but you also have Mark Glowinski, age 30 as well, probably really cheap. Austin Corbett, age 26, probably cheap as well. Connor Williams, not too big of a fan of his, but he's 25 years old. There's a pretty big guard market. Definitely don't see us bringing back Brandon Scherff for the money he's asking for at all. With all these other options at guard, cheaper and healthier, they may not be as good as him when anybody's at their best. Like Brandon Scherff's best is better than all of these other guys at their best. But at the same time, man, a lot of these guys are healthier and they're cheaper, and that's most important. And the difference in production won't be that large. We can still have a top 5 offensive line even without Brandon Scherff if you bring in a guy like Laken Tomlinson. I'm cool with that. And then most importantly, the name I wanted to talk about the most is potentially bringing in Zach Ertz at tight end. He actually looked pretty decent for the Cardinals at times. I mean, there was like one time I picked him up in fantasy and then I benched him, and then that game he had like a really nice game. I can't remember what his stats was, but like it looked like the old Zach Ertz. And if anybody can revive Zach Ertz, it will be Carson Wentz. If anybody can make Carson Wentz feel comfortable and be a dependable target for him, is Zach Ertz. Their chemistry is unmatched, so I think that would be a smart signing. I think he'd be very cheap, and again, it looks like we're in win now mode. This whole Carson Wentz thing just screams win now. So even though Zach Ertz is up there in age, it makes sense for what we're trying to do with Carson Wentz. It looks like we're throwing all of our eggs in one basket pretty much. I'm pretty sure we're going to still do little things here and there to build for the future, but it's definitely looking like after you trade for Carson Wentz, you're all in on 2022 and you're sacrificing 2023 and beyond for a better chance of winning right now. Again, I don't like it, but it is what it is. And then lastly, the Deshaun Watson situation, man. Well, first of all, for those of y'all who are interested, if you trade for him right now, you get $136 million worth of his contract over 4 years. This year, $35 million guaranteed. Next year, $37 million guaranteed as of March 20th, 2022. 2024, $32 million. 2025, $32 million as well. And then for the Texans, and you need to keep this in mind when you're trying to figure out like what the Texans may be willing to trade Deshaun Watson away for, is because they're going to take quite a bit of dead cap. I mean, they're going to save $24.2 million worth of cap space this year in 2022, but it's still going to eat up $16.2 million worth of dead cap. And that's if they trade him before June 1st. If they trade him after June 1st, which I don't think he's going to make it that long. I think Nick Caserio's line is going crazy right now. Guys are getting put on hold left and right trying to make offers, outbidding themselves. I know he's having a good old time right now. But if they were to trade him after June 1st, again, highly doubt it, but the Texans would only have to eat $5.4 million worth of dead cap in 2022, and then $10.8 million of it in 2023. So that's $16.2 million worth of dead cap. If they were to trade him way before June 1st, would get split up between 2 years if they were to trade him after June 1st. So just keep that in mind. Quite a bit of dead cap. Not a lot. They still ultimately save a lot of money, but it's not like when they trade away Deshaun Watson, he's completely off their books. They're still gonna have to eat some of that money. But yeah, I just don't think the Deshaun Watson situation is realistic. First of all, I mean, to go from one situation that he's dealing with all of the accusations and things like that, and to go to another team that's dealing with that, like in the front office with their owner, I just don't know if he'd even be comfortable with that. I doubt his agent would even recommend that for him. So that hurts already. And then we just traded for Carson Wentz. Again, the trade isn't done officially till Wednesday, so we could back out. And there's a chance that you could use Carson Wentz in the trade to get Deshaun Watson. They get a starter, but even though I like Davis Mills as a starter, didn't love him coming out of the draft, but he looked pretty good last year for the Texans. So I don't think the Texans really want a quarterback in return in a trade. But who knows, man. And speaking of the Carson Wentz trade, I'm pretty sure the fact that we just went ahead and went through with it, we already did our research and found out that Deshaun Watson wasn't coming here no matter what we did. Either we didn't have enough to offer in a trade, or Deshaun Watson wasn't willing to come here and he wouldn't be willing to waive his no trade clause or something. I feel like we already were like, yeah, we're not getting Deshaun Watson. Let's go ahead and get Carson Wentz. I think that's how that truly went down. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. The complete Washington Commanders free agency guide. Again, come back to this when free agency starts up and see. I mean, I'm not necessarily guessing here, but see how many of the names that I put out there we end up getting. Again, Marcus Williams, Bobby Wagner, Jordan Hicks. Those are my priorities. If you don't get Bobby Wagner, go get Jordan Hicks, and I want Marcus Williams no matter what. Those are my like top of the list guys. Guard wise, I would love Laken Tomlinson. Please re-sign J.D. McKissic. And like I already said throughout the video, we may have to get rid of some of these defensive linemen to make some cap space to make things happen. Restructure Ereck Flowers, extend him further, maybe ask Kendall Fuller to take a pay cut. Who knows what will happen? But either way, man, definitely get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video, every part of it. And of course, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now. Like I already said, I'm gonna do a Carson Wentz film session that's gonna be for everybody, but for my sponsors specifically, I'm about to start doing some uncut, unedited, completely raw, just chilling, laughing probably the most of it. I'm just gonna be joking around and watching some film on some draft pick potential players like Malik Willis, Sauce Gardner, some of the receivers, all of that type of stuff. Again, it's not gonna be like a real analytical one. It's gonna be me watching film unedited and probably just laughing, like especially when we get the guys like Jamison Williams and Chris Olave and they're just juking people out their socks. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna be like a complete fan watching those. I won't even be able to analyze particular nuances. I mean, once he jukes somebody out their socks and gets like 10 yards of separation, I'm gonna be sitting here yelling and laughing. So be on the lookout for that, all of my sponsors, and I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.